Summer of 1940, the world teetered on the edge of collapse. France had fallen. Nazi armies seemed unstoppable. Across the Channel, Britain stood alone, its cities vulnerable to air raids, its navy stretched thin, and its people haunted by the specter of invasion. Most leaders would have sought negotiation, perhaps even surrender. But one man, cigar in hand and defiance in his voice, thundered words that still echo through history. "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall never surrender." That man was Winston Churchill. But who exactly was he? How did a man dismissed for failures earlier in his career become the very symbol of resistance when the world needed him most? Early life, a child of privilege, a youth of rebellion. Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born in 1874 into one of Britain's most prestigious families. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was a leading conservative politician. His mother, Jenny Jerome, was an American socialite known for her charm and beauty. You might assume that with such parents, young Winston had an easy childhood, but appearances deceive. His father was distant, critical, often cold. His mother, though glamorous and loving in her way, spent little time with him. Winston grew up craving approval, attention, and a sense of belonging. At school, he was a restless student, bright but rebellious. Teachers dismissed him as lazy. He struggled with Latin and mathematics, but excelled in history and English. Ironically, it was his command of the English language, his mastery of words, that would one day rally a nation. Soldier, adventurer, and storyteller. Before politics, there was adventure. Churchill sought to prove himself through action. He joined the British Army, serving in places like India, the Sudan, and South Africa. It wasn't just the battlefield that defined him, it was the way he wrote about it. While fighting, he sent back vivid reports to newspapers in Britain. He turned war into literature, and literature into fame. His daring escape from a Boer prison camp in South Africa made him a national hero. About it. How many politicians today gain fame not through speeches, but through actual exploits of courage? Churchill's early life gave him more than medals. It gave him a reputation as a man who would never accept captivity, never accept defeat. Entering politics, a stormy career. By his mid-20s, Churchill entered Parliament, and just as in school, he refused to follow rules blindly. He switched political parties twice. He clashed with colleagues. He was bold, outspoken, and often controversial. His rise was fast, but so were his falls. As First Lord of the Admiralty during World War I, he was blamed for the disastrous Gallipoli campaign, where tens of thousands of Allied soldiers died. Many thought his career finished. But Churchill was not one to surrender to failure. He resigned, served again in the army on the Western Front, and slowly rebuilt his political life. What do we learn from this? That resilience is not just about standing firm against enemies. It is about standing firm against your own mistakes. The wilderness years, a voice no one wanted to hear. The 1930s were perhaps Churchill's loneliest years. While Hitler rose in Germany, Churchill warned again and again. Emphatic, this man is a threat. We must rearm, we must prepare. But most in Britain dismissed him as a warmonger, a relic from another age. He was excluded from government. Newspapers ridiculed him. Parliament ignored him. Imagine the frustration of being right but unheard. Imagine watching danger grow, yet having your voice silenced. These were Churchill's wilderness years. But here's the twist. Those very years of isolation built his credibility. When the storm finally came and Hitler's armies swept across Europe, people remembered the man who had warned them. Britain's darkest hour. Leadership in 1940. In May 1940, as German tanks rolled into France, Britain's Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain resigned. Churchill was chosen to replace him, not because he was popular, but because he was the only man whose defiance matched the moment. He faced a nation on the brink of panic. Thousands of soldiers were trapped at Dunkirk. A Nazi invasion of Britain seemed imminent. The easy choice would have been negotiation with Hitler, but Churchill refused. In the House of Commons, he declared, "Determined, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat." These words were not just rhetoric. They were a promise, a warning that survival would demand sacrifice. And yet, those words lit a fire in the British spirit. The power of words, a weapon stronger than guns. Churchill understood something vital. Wars are not won by armies alone. They are won in the hearts and minds of people. His speeches were not mere politics. They were weapons of war. Think of his address after Dunkirk. "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender." Or his defiance during the Blitz. "Resolute, let us therefore brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that, if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour." Why do these words endure? Because they gave ordinary people the courage to endure bombs, blackouts, and loss. Churchill made language into armor, wrapping a battered nation in defiance. The Alliance, standing with Roosevelt and Stalin. Churchill knew Britain could not fight alone forever. His strategic genius lay in forging alliances. With Franklin D. Roosevelt of the United States, he developed the special relationship. With Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union, despite mistrust, he formed an uneasy but necessary partnership. It is no exaggeration to say that without Churchill's relentless persuasion, America's involvement in the war might have come too late. And without his ability to work with Stalin, Nazi Germany might never have been crushed on the Eastern Front. Victory and the price of leadership. In 1945, victory came. Hitler was defeated. Europe was liberated. And yet, ironically, Churchill's wartime leadership was not enough to keep him in office. In that same year, the British people voted him out, longing for social reform after years of war. How must it have felt to guide your nation through its darkest hour, only to be set aside when peace returned? Churchill accepted it with his characteristic resilience. And later, he returned to power once again in the 1950s, though now as an aging statesman rather than a fiery war leader. The legacy what Churchill teaches us today. What do we take from Churchill's story? First, that not about popularity. When the moment demands courage, it demands standing alone if necessary. Second, that failure is not the end. His setbacks, Gallipoli, his years in the wilderness, became the very experiences that prepared him for greatness. And finally, that words matter. In an age of violence, his speeches gave hope. In a time of fear, his defiance gave strength. Churchill himself once said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." That, perhaps, is the essence of Winston Churchill, the man who refused to surrender, not just to Hitler, not just to invasion, but to despair, to doubt, to the temptation of giving up. Conclusion: the man who defied history. As we look back, Churchill remains a paradox, aristocrat and rebel, politician and soldier, flawed man and heroic leader. He was not perfect, no leader is, but at the critical hour, when surrender might have been easier, he chose resistance. And because of that choice, because of his refusal to bow, freedom survived. So when we ask, what can one person do in the face of overwhelming odds? Winston Churchill provides the answer. One voice, one will, one refusal to surrender can change the course of history.